Hello, this is Joseph Mendoz with another video here for my YouTube channel, Cello Junkie. This will be the first video in hopefully a long series of beginner-related videos. So this video is technically called Beginner Lesson 1. So I'll have obviously 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 after that. We'll be trying to go in some sort of logical progression in terms of, starting with your very first day and going as far as we can go, as long as I'm making videos on YouTube, I guess, is I'll be doing these videos periodically. So the first thing that we're going to discuss today is sitting. I think sitting is pretty important. I don't think sitting is actually, well, obviously, if you need to be sitting to play the cello, but how you sit isn't as critical as some other teachers think. But I do think it's helpful to just kind of go over some basic things that I think are good for anybody to try to emulate, at least in the beginning, so that there are at least some ground rules. The reason why I say that is because, when you canvas, say a dozen really great cellists just on YouTube, and you see how they sit, you see how they all sit incredibly differently. There seem to be a lot of differences, so that's why sitting seems to be this kind of personal thing. But when you begin, of course, it's better for things to be a little bit more firm, and then you can experiment from out there, from that point. So anyway, sitting. The first thing that you want to do is, first of all, don't try to sit with the cello yet. Let's just practice the way we're going to sit without the cello, and then we'll form the cello to that. Now, we know, for example, that the cello needs to go right between our legs here. It needs to fit between our legs. So that means that our knees need to be kind of automatically a proper distance apart. In order for that to happen, our hip sockets here need to be free to really move in and out that joint. Where your leg attaches to your pelvic bone there. You need to be able to move pretty freely. So in order to do that, I suggest actually sitting quite forward on the chair. Now that's really not anything new or revolutionary. You do hear some teachers today talking about sitting a little bit further back in the chair, actually, in order to get the legs to be a little bit more further out. But for me, I think it's important to stay on the front edge of the chair, and then to keep your feet a little bit more underneath you. Instead of having your feet all the way out here, I know you can't maybe see that on the camera there, on the video. Instead, I like to have my feet a little bit more underneath me. This has the added feature of, first of all, increasing my mobility in terms of moving my legs this way, so that it's very easy for me to have my legs at the proper distance and have them comfortably there in order to fit the cello in between the legs. And also at the same time, it helps my posture quite a bit. As cellists, and especially if you're an amateur cellist and you're perhaps in your 70s and maybe a little bit older, you want to really protect your lower back no matter what age you are, but certainly if you're in that upper age bracket, you want to really protect that lower back. And to be in a good posture is really important, as we all know. Now, getting the knees to be slightly below the hips, I think, helps this a lot, because it tends to roll the hips forward and it straightens the spine right out. In the same way that when you're standing up, squaring your shoulders can automatically kind of shift those hips forward. As soon as we start to round over like this, as soon as we start to round over the instrument, then we get into trouble. And what I find is that with the feet a little bit more flat on the floor, you're more likely to kind of get into this kind of position where your shoulders are coming over and you're rounding over. And then so this whole system here collapses, and this puts a tremendous amount of strain just on your lower back. So better to be in this upright posture, and it's much easier to stay in that upright posture when your knees are below your hips, your feet are a little bit more centered underneath you. This is a position that Starker actually he advocated, and that I very much agree with. There are plenty of things with Starker's approach that I don't agree with, but that's definitely one that I think is a good place to start. Now, of course, if this is uncomfortable for you, or we all have little physiological differences, so please experiment. But this seems to work for most beginners that I've encountered, and it seems to be still a favorite position with a lot of students that I've taught this position to. Now, we're going to take this position with the feet a little bit kind of underneath us. We are very much on the front edge of the chair. We're going to take the cello and now place it between our legs. Now, if our knees are low enough, then we won't probably run into this problem that we get into where this corner of the cello here, this one, tends to run into the side of your leg, and it's quite uncomfortable, especially if you're wearing shorts or something like that. I like to have it so that my legs are underneath these pointy parts here. So I'm interfacing with the cello right about there on either side, kind of roughly in that same spot. In fact, you can see, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there are wear spots on the cello exactly where I have my legs. Now, how do we get at that height? Well, you have to experiment with your end pin length. Now, some people say that it should be, you know, a certain amount of hand length, or that I've heard from some people that, you know, when you're standing up, you should be able to have the cello line up to a certain peg or something like that. All of this stuff is really not, I think, in my opinion, very useful, because we all have different lengths of torso and legs, and the ratio between the two really is the thing that's going to determine how long your end pin is. So my end pin, as you can see, is not that long, I think, compared to some other, you know, big names out there, compared to, say, even someone like Steven Isserlis, who uses a little bit of a longer end pin. Misha Maisky uses a very long end pin, very, very long. And maybe the longest of all, the British cellist Raphael Wallfisch. It's nothing close to those. It's quite short, but this has been a position that's always been comfortable for me. It allows me, again, to feel that I'm leaning forward a little bit so that I never get into this position. I always want to feel really comfortable no matter what part of the cello I'm at, whatever position I'm in. I just always want to really feel like I never have to strain my body in any particular way to get to any part of the cello. If the cello is a little bit too high up, I feel like that if I'm playing in first position, then my shoulder and my elbow have to be way too high in order to get to the right position for first position. If the cello is way too low, then I have to kind of stretch out in order to get to the right position here. That's why I like to find just some position where you know, first of all, I'm not interfacing with the cello, this part of the cello here, in any way that's painful or uncomfortable. And also, I feel like that I have really good access to every single spot on the instrument. So that's really my tips for sitting. You know, if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. Again, this was lesson 1, so we're going to have lots of lessons. I believe lesson 2, we're going to do the bow hold. If there's anything you feel I've missed, also leave that in the comments. I'm really open to suggestion here. Whatever you guys think you need, I'll try to accommodate. But that's at least how things are going to go for this beginner series. So yeah, I guess that's it. You know, also I do have a few spots left for the online lessons. If you wanted to have a weekly lesson or even just a bi-monthly lesson, I have openings for that currently. Not many, but there are some left. So if you are interested, now's the time, and I'd be happy to teach you. So you can just go to my website, cellojunkie.com, and then go through the contact form and send me a message. Or even you can just leave a message down in the comments that you're interested in that, and we can find a way to contact one another. So yeah, that's it. So I hope this was helpful to all of you. Hope this solved some myths in regards to sitting with the cello. And yeah, I guess that's all. I'll see you next time.